Hi everyone! Today's card was inspired by a Pinterest post I've seen not that long ago. I can't find it now. I will try to find my best and look for it and link it in the description box below. It was a tall pink shaker card, and I'm not sure what the measurements were. I was working kind of with my own measurements in here. So this is 5 by 8 inches, and the other panel is a 5 by 8.5. And on the half-inch mark on the 8.5 inside, I folded back that tab, which I'm going to apply my glue to, and I'm going to attach my card front to just that. And just like that, my custom size card base is done. I really love making my own card bases in all different unusual sizes, and this is one of them. Now, if you have 8 by 8 inch card bases, you can just easily cut this down at 5 inches, and you would have a 5 by 8 inch top folding card base ready at the go. So I'm not sure, this is not a DL card because DL would be like 4 by 8. It's half of the size of the length, I believe. And the slimline would be even narrower. So I'm not sure. I just call this a tall card. For the layering a pattern paper, I'm just coming down 1/8 of an inch below these measurements. So this one measures 4 7/8 by 7 7/8. And these pattern papers are, by the way, from the Summer Florals paper pad by Chloe's Creative Cards. The next layer, this one measures 4.5 by 7.5. And the pattern paper to go on top of that, 4 3/8 by 7 3/8. Just want to have that lovely, very thin border on all four sides. Not going to layer them up before, obviously, I add my glitter. So I'm just using my chisel tip glue pen to run it through all four sides of these pattern papers, both of these pieces, and I'm just going to dip them all into my crystalline glitter. I love adding this glitter border. I think it just adds something really, really nice to all of these cards. And I ideally like to do this ahead of time and have them sitting ready, but I didn't have time to do any much preparations for this card now. This is going for a birthday for a very special lady, and yeah, it kind of has to be ready for tomorrow. So I'm just adding my chisel tip glue pen on all four sides, dragging it along and dipping it into the crystalline glitter. If you're not familiar with the crystalline glitter from Chloe's Creative Cards, it is a lovely translucent glitter. It lets you see all the colors underneath, but adds some gorgeous sparkle to it. So now I'm going to layer these two off, and to do that I'm going to use my collal glue. So the stripy pattern, the bigger one, goes straight onto the card base, and the collal glue, as always, will leave it nice and sturdy once fully dries. For the other two layers, again, I'm going to use the collal glue to layer them on top of each other. By the way, this paper pad is so gorgeous. This is the second one I ordered of these, and especially these apricotty, peachy kind of tones. I really kind of liking these lately. I think these are my favorites at the moment, anyway, the favorite colors. So I'm added some paper pads, no, sorry, foam pads at the back of that, a smaller layer, and added it on top of the card base. So I'm going to set these aside for now. I'm going to bring in another layer in here, and this one is the same pattern that I used there on the top layer. So this one measures 3.5 by 6.5, and this one just 1/8 of an inch below, 3 3/8 by 6 3/8. So I'm going to create frames from this. Ahead of time I added 1/2 inch of a border just with a pencil. I measured in 1/2 inch on all four sides, and with my ruler I just pulled those lines. I have to cut away that middle section. To do that, you can use scissors or craft knife with a craft mat, or you can use nesting dies. Today I decided to try my trimmer from Craft Stash by Creative Craft Products, and this is super easy too. It's so easy to line up that line that I drew with my pencil in that cutting groove. And then that orange blade carrier has a little line in the middle which lines up so perfectly and very easily with the numbers on that little plastic door. I'm not sure, it's not a door. This one that I'm opening, it has numbers on it and little lines, and it's very easy to line up. So it's very nice and easy to see where you're cutting. I've never used trimmers to cut out frames like this. Most of the, well, not, I use nesting dies, but this definitely is such a lovely option. So if you haven't yet tried this with a trimmer, I will link to this one in the description box below. It's quite inexpensive and it's a really good quality. I have to say, I really have been enjoying using this trimmer. So I'm just going around all four sides, and you can see how lovely with one single cut it's gotten all the way without having to use a craft knife. So that is definitely not my favorite thing to do. So I have a lovely white frame, and I'm just checking that this one is cut to proper size, and doing exactly the same thing, except instead of 1/2 inch, I drew the lines at 3/8 of an inch in on all four sides. I'm just doing exactly the same thing, lining up the blade at 3/8 of an inch of a mark, and I'm pulling it down to that 3 inches in there. So it's again very easy to see, and it cuts through the paper or the heavyweight cardstock like butter. I've had no issues doing this at all. I definitely will be using this trimmer to cut out more frames like this, just for a bit of practicing anyway, because I'm quite slow with it, quite careful. This was my first time doing it, but I really have enjoyed. So this piece, set it aside now. I will use it to decorate the box for the card later. I will insert a picture of it at the end of this video. So now you can see how I have two lovely frames which layer up so perfectly and have a thin border both on the outside and on the inside of that floral frame. The floral pattern in here I used is exactly the same pattern as I used on the card base for the smaller layer, which we added on foam pads, remember. So I have a piece of acetate which measures just a teeny tiny bit under 3.5 by 6.5, and I've covered this on double-sided tape, adding my acetate to that, because this is going to be our window for our shaker element on the card. The foam tape that I managed to find in my messy stash is a 1-inch wide one, and I need them to be thinner, so they have to fit behind that frame. So what I like to do is add a couple of strips on a non-stick baking paper, baking sheet or wax paper, and cut down midway-ish. It's very easy to cut, and it's a mess-free way of cutting foam tape. So if you haven't tried this, that definitely is my go-to technique for this one. And now I'm going to add, or I'm adding the foam tape all around this, making sure that I leave no gaps, because I don't want my shaker bits, the little sequins that I will be adding, to fall out. And now these foam tapes are really sticky, but not only on the top of the bottom, but also on the sides. So I don't want my sequins to stick to it. I want them to be freely able to move within the window. So I'm just rubbing my anti-static bag, which I use for the heat embossing. You've seen me do that before, all around the sides, inside and the outside, because I don't want the dust to stick to that outside bit either. And then I'm just giving a quick clean to my acetate with a piece of paper towel. This is how they will sit. This will sit on top of my card. The sequins, these lovely orangey, yellowy, pinkish tones, going so well with the colors on the paper. And this is also from Chloe's Creative Cards, and I will link to it in the description box below as well. So I'm just finding out how much I think would work with that window. If you want to add more sequins, you can always double up on the foam tape, so it's a much thicker window for you. But I really wanted to keep this nice and shallow, so to speak, lack of a better term. So I'm going to reinforce it with a bit of a liquid glue. This will give me enough wriggle room to make sure it is nice and straight, which ended up a little bit wonky. No one will know it unless I tell them. It's a very minimal wonkiness. I know it is there, but I don't want to rip it apart. So yeah, these things happen. I still love the card. Like, it's barely noticeable, honestly. You can't see it at all. So now I have my sentiment. For my sentiment, I used a couple of things. So for the larger orangey colored circle, I used a die from the 6x6 decorative circles die set. And for the scalloped one, I used a die from the scalloped and pierced circles nesting die set. And the sentiment from the fabulous floral frame, the stamp and die set reads, "Hope lots of lovely surprises are coming your way to make your birthday a lovely day." And I used the roasted pumpkin stamp from Hunky Dory to stamp that out. This piece of vellum, two pieces of vellum folded in half, and I've cut out using the Flower Power die set. I didn't use the stamps for my flowers today, only the dies. So I've cut through the 4 layers, the 2 sheets folded over into half, like butter. Honestly, it's just cut through the 4 layers so easily through my die cutting machine. Now I am adding a bit of a texture to this, so from the underside using my foam, a flower forming foam and the tool, and it creates kind of a crackling effect. And then I'm going to punch a little hole in the middle of each of these layers because I will be pulling some stamens through these. The stamens are just from my stash, and these are lovely tiny ones with pearlescent endings to them. I really love using these for elegant kind of flowers. I haven't done it in a long time. I like die cutting my stamens lately quite a lot. I used to use these all the time. I have quite a stash of all different stamens in my drawer. So must come back and use them a little bit more often because they're just sitting there and it's not really worth buying stuff and not use them. So adding a little bit of a hot glue in there and making sure it dries a little bit before I'm gonna go and add the next layer to it. And I'm kind of offsetting each layer from the previous ones, so the little petals of those flowers fill out the whole head nicely. And once all the 3 layers are added, I'm just going to cut away the rest of that stamen on the underside. Off camera, I prepared more of these flowers in all the 3 sizes. So this one is the largest one, and then there's the medium and the small one. So I created several of each. As I said, it was very easy to cut through 4 layers of the vellum. So just had those petals in there. It's quite easy to put them together then into a lovely flower head. Added a little bit of dry clear glue, and the glitter I'm using is the Mexican Sunrise. And I just really dabbed the glue all around those stamens in there, just to add a little bit of sparkle to them, because why not? The Mexican Sunrise glitter, I will link to it in the description box below if it's still available. It's such a gorgeous one, honestly. And then again, as I said before, I am a sucker lately for these peachy kind of an orangey tones, so it's just, yeah. One of the favorites lately, the small leafy or foliage dies from the same stamp and dies that I used for the sentiment. And I cut this out of vellum. I'll show you the piece of vellum in a minute, this one in here. And this is from the same vellum pad as the orange ones for the flowers. And this is the Summer Florals collection. Again, will be linked in the description box below. And the larger foliage door is cut out of this paper pad, the Leafy Lace Collection printed paper pad, using 2 different greens to fill out floral arrangements. I think it just adds extra little bit of a dimension, extra little bit of a something to these floral arrangements. So I do like to use at least 2 different greeneries. Especially like these where I'm not using any golds and silvers for the foliage or any heat embossed ones on acetate, which I normally do. It's only the green ones, so I really definitely like to use a couple different shades of greens. Now, to fill out the space in there, because I felt like this was missing something, I came in with an old trick that I done before, and this is to cut down copy paper, just plain white copy paper, to very, very thin strips. And I mean 1/8 of an inch or even thinner strips. And with the guillotine, it's just quite easy to cut through these. And I cut out a bunch, like you can see it in here. And I'm just very randomly folding it into hoops and loops and just going to glue it all over where I know my floral arrangement will go on top of this. Now, I guess this is quite an inexpensive alternative to strings and all different burlaps that I would like to use. I didn't want to introduce any new colors, and I had strings in my drawer, all different ivory shades and brine and craft kind of shades. But I didn't have any plain white ones, and I definitely didn't want to show any new colors here underneath. I wanted this to be quite subtle. So using paper strips like this is just quite a lovely way of filling out of those spaces, and quite unique again, and it just adds a lovely interest in there and a little bit of a dimension. So I've done this technique quite a few times before in my videos as well, and sometimes I would even add a little bit of a color to this by using pigment sprays all over them, just to color match to my card or my project. And this is such a lovely way of adding some extra interest or extra texture to your cards. And also you could use colored paper as well in any different colors that you would like. What I suggest is to use very thin paper for these little hoops and loops, so it's not like cracking, but they kind of fold back nicely into little hoops. So I am quite happy with how it is looking for now, even though it is looking quite messy. I have a vision in my head how the flowers will fill out this really nicely. So I am arranging the sentiment first. I'm peeling back the backing of the foam pads in there. I'm adding it towards the top and towards the right hand side in there. And I'm kind of going to arrange my flowers in a cascading kind of a pattern, a little bit up on the top and then all coming down on the left hand side. And I'm using my hot glue. I trust the hot glue the most to add 3D elements to my project. I know a lot of people like using 3D glue gels and all. I just can't get the hang of it, and it always gets all so messy for me. So I'm just going to stick with my hot glue on this card. And I am adding the larger foliage first behind the flowers, and as you can see I am kind of shortening them by tearing into them, because I do not need the whole length of those foliages on this card. So I'm just using the top 3, 4 or 5 of the little leaves. I definitely don't need that long stem in there. And once I have all the larger foliage that I wanted to add, I am coming back with the little ones, the ones that I've cut out of vellum, and I'm just filling out all the spaces in there. I think it's coming together so nicely, and the card will turn out truly beautiful. I will leave some close-up video footage and images at the very end of this video, so please stay tuned. I'm coming in with some of those orangey, peachy kind of colored pearls, and I'm adding them on the one corner just. I'm adding one of the large one, 2 of the medium, and 2 of the smaller ones on either side of the large. And then I'm going to come back with the same sequence I used for the shaker elements, and some of the smallest flowers I'm just going to scatter here and there all around the card, just for it to a little bit catch the eye all over the card. And I think it just adds a little, very little subtle interest in the. I really love how this card turned out, and I absolutely adore the colors. Let me know in the comment section below, what is your favorite colors to make cards with? Mine changes a lot, and right now I'm going through an apricot peach kind of phase. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Here are some close-up footages for you. And if you did enjoy this, please do not forget to give me the thumbs up, leave me a comment in the comment section below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet done so. Every single one of your interactions helped me so much to get seen on YouTube, and it has been amazing. I really appreciate your support, and I will be back very soon with another lovely tutorial. I hope to see you then. Bye!